Peace, peace, peace. So I'm running out of time. I gotta go. Peace to the God, divine understanding, born of law. You know we do it. Set the record straight. Ancient mysteries, Yahweh. Right. So I wanted to finish that build with because I had ran out of time. Right. So what happened was we also had got that lesson explaining why everybody's degrees aren't exactly the same. And we got that degree too, right? So in that lesson, it goes on to say that the reason behind them not being exactly the same is because the time frame of from, you're talking about 1962, because that's really around the time he leaves the temple. And then around 63, he starts talking to the youth, Messiah and all them eventually. They get it in 63. You see what I'm saying? So they get it in 63, and then it says in the degree, read the degree, Almighty. It says in there, in 64, there's 500 5%ers. All right, so that means that, well, when was there 499 and 498? I'm just saying, when was it just one? It was in between 63 and 64. See? So, and then if you go into the degree itself, all right, say we just go into the degree. And we look at it. And after we learned how to quote the degree, then the next thing we start analyzing the degree, right? And so it doesn't take rocket science to hear the degree say older than the sun, moon, and stars. So the actual manifestation itself is older than the sun, moon, and stars. The nation. Because the nation never left. You went to sleep as a people, and our sleep from Alaska to Chile is not the same sleep that we have from, say, the Mediterranean to South Africa, and from the Atlantic Ocean to the Red Sea. It's not the same sleep, right? Our sleep is different than their sleep. So, if we go, it'll say something to the effect, I'm going to paraphrase it for y'all so y'all can get that part. What is the birth record of the said nations other than, it says that on that degree, right? But prior to that, it'll say, what is the said birth record of the nation? And so, if we go to the said birth record of the nation, we know that means the original man. Who is the original? What is the said birth record of lamb's wool? Right? It has no beginning nor ending. Remember, Elijah said, you'll never see the end of the original man. It will be no more if that happened. There won't be nothing on this planet, you see? Because you and the planet are one on the physical plane of existence. That's why you're the only one with lamb's wool. The next hit would be anybody that's inside that 16 shades of black, 8 shades of brown. When they go into the 8 shades of yellow, you see how all of the people who they call today Asian have either the slants in their eyes. See? That's another mark that only they have that. Even though you can see that our mathematics is close because we have it, but not as prominent as they have it, right? You can see that. That's not something that you can't see, right? Like in between us would be the brown sea, like East India and all that. They can get all the way to jet black too, but they're still the brownish sea because they're not like the black sea. Kind of. They are the same. We the same now. We all earthlings. I don't mean it in that perspective. I mean that you can see the manifestation of which genetic code that is. Right? And I said that to say because of the 16 shades of black, 8 shades of brown, 8 shades of yellow. So we say, well, where do you get that from? That's inside the universal flag of the 5% cycle. But that's also a genetic code. There's nothing more diverse than the original people. Right? The original people with lamb's wool are more diverse from each other genetically, even though we all got lamb's wool. We're more diverse genetically from each other than the European is with other Europeans. With the pink nipples. If they're pink nipple Europeans, genetic code, all of their code is very close. Where ours is very, very diverse. We have diversity all the way down to the DNA and RNA. Right? So that's that part of the lesson. All right. So, like I was saying, so because each one of the different children that Allah taught and who got taught by one of Allah's students or a combination of both. See what I'm saying? Like it's no absolute way of how it was done, but I do know that there's some kind of lineage, and the lineage that we see is not totally all the way right and exact because some people was getting taught at the same time as the firstborn were getting taught by Allah too. Right? Some people weren't even children and were getting taught by Allah. That's how it was going down. So, you have to look at it not so much in a line, but in a circle, in a triangle, and not a square, but a cube. That's how you look at it. Not so much a circle, but a sphere, like that. But both, as above, so below, as below, so above. All right, so the next one was, they was saying, what about Yahweh Ben Yahweh and Dr. Malachi Z. York? All right, so when I met him, he wasn't Dr. Malachi Z. York. I didn't know him. By the time he did that, we had went our separate ways as far as I wasn't really studying what they was teaching by then. So I'll tell you how it happened so you can get an understanding what I do know. Because I know the brother Imam Ubaba, that's his brother, African Islamic Mission. Princess and Under used to work there. And when I was working at Bethlehem and Atlantic. So I know them like that. And the grandmother and all that. We know them. Mostly Princess and Under know them because I didn't really go over there. Like, that's not how I got introduced to him because Bushwick, and they used to be on the train with all the white on, and they had coconut shell in their hand, and we would be giving them donations. And that's how, and we was studying. It was early too. It was like 83, so you talking we got lessons in March. And then March, and then April came, then April, May. It was around June. Like June 30th, like the end of the month, June, getting ready to go into July, because I remember it was going to be 4th of July soon. And we was studying and we learned about something called Shahada because we didn't know what that was. And so he was giving classes on it. So we went there and took Shahada. And that's how we learned about Wudu and Salat. And they showed us how to follow it. You know how to follow someone? We never learned how to do the lead part because it was getting different in there. Like, we would be going to the class because Bushwick ain't nowhere from East New York. That's just down the block to us. But then they start talking about we should join. They was talking to me and Princess saying we should join. And she get to live over there and I get to live over there. And that right there made me think cold. I mean, I didn't mean to think that way. It wasn't like I thought that way on purpose. But in my mind, I was like, what do you mean? I didn't get that part. So I was like, well, I don't want to do that. So we not going to keep studying with y'all. I could read Quran myself after that. I just didn't know what Shahada was, and so he showed us that. Okay, so that was my little experience with him then in that point. Then we used to be out in the streets, for lack of a better word. We would be on the streets of Brooklyn and Manhattan, mostly Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens. Right? We wasn't really in Pelon that much, but we was mostly in Medina, the desert, the Oasis, and sometimes we'd be out in Staten Island because the Wu was out there. So people would go out there, the nation would go out there. But mostly we was in Medina and Manhattan. Right? Law school is in Manhattan, or we would be over there, Livonia, or that area, going to law school. So I said that to say we would see Imam Isa. See, that's how we knew him. We didn't know him as Z or Malachi D or Z, or I know his name was Dwight, but I'm saying I don't think they called him Malachi D York. I think they called him Malachi Z York. But I could be wrong. Don't quote me on it, because like I said, I know him as Imam Isa. And they was the Hebrew Islamic. They had the Hebrew and the Islamic manifestation. They put it in one. So, and they had the white on, and they had a lot of books. He was putting out so many books. And then one day, he put out a book about a law, and it wasn't right and exact, and the True and Living got offended. And we had some kind of caucus, powwow. Eventually, we ended up with a peace treaty, and he retracted all of that. What wasn't right and exact. The part that wasn't right and exact, he personally, was like, my bad, pretty much, without getting all deep in it. And then I remember he left New York because he had did a lot of change, and every time, I guess he would get more information, he would go to the next level. And next thing I know, he was like a Moor, but he was still Islamic. Like, I didn't keep up good, but I know he was kind of like saying he was a Native American from Alaska to Chile, and he was also a Moor. And I don't know if they were keeping the, what was they called? Ansuaru. That's what they was called. I don't know if he was still doing that part of his teachings, because I remember he had been wrote them a book on his language. He made an alphabet and everything, made his own. He wasn't using the A, B. He wasn't using that. He made his own A, B, C's, and for lack of a better word, I don't know if it was like A, B. It had to be similar to consonants and vowels, but in this language that I show you how intelligent he was. He was highly intelligent. He made a whole language. That ain't really something a lot of people do, walk around making a whole language, right? I seen the Lord do it, but that's not something that you could count on your hand how many people made a language for people to use. So he did that, and then I remember they went to Georgia. And I remember some Moors was helping him in court. He went to some Moors that weren't part of his group of Moors. They were Moors under CMB, so they studied law like it's part of their life. And so they was trying to help him. I knew that. I know that much about what was going on there in that part. But like I said, I wasn't really... we went there to get some lessons like we did Flatiron Building, like when we went in and got the lessons out of the Masonic Lodge. You know, took some of them rituals. Once we got up to IHVH and the infallible name and all that. Once we got up to that part, we just was like, okay, some of us went on here and got the Royal Arch or whatever the case may be. But it was more curiosity to learn what was really going on in there as versus we want to be that. Because once you got knowledge yourself, I mean, what can they give you? There's not, I mean, they can't give you anything. They might have structure and people over you. If you do this, then you get this, or you get this, or whatever. You a reward or a penalty. But other than that, it's not much you could get taught after you got 120. Right? Because 120 is a third of 360, and so it's like saying 33.33. You know, it's all that goes together. So they get a 33rd degree Mason, right? And so we learned about Entered Apprentice, Fellow Craft, Master Mason, and, you know, then you do the next 4, you learn the infallible name, and right? We went there. And then I also remember at the same time, because we was really hungry for knowledge back in those days, so we would be fanning out, hitting these groups, seeing what they got, see whenever we could learn. That's how we had learned about going to Samuel White's bookstore, and we went in that glass door, and that's where they had those triangle circle books at. I tell you that because I want you to look for the triangle and the circle inside. They had those. Man, listen. That whole series is off the chain. Get those. I didn't even get them all because I had 120. But maybe you don't got a set of 120. Maybe you don't have a set of 120, so you might say, well, I'm going to get them all, or whatever the case may be, right? However you make your knowledge born. But trust me, those books is off the chain. Now, over there in Eastern Parkway, when we would be going over there, because we used to be over there on President and over there. We used to be over there, right? I know some people still live over there and everything like that. And so we ran into Yahweh Ben Yahweh's people. They wore white. I thought at first they was Imam Isa's people because I saw them looking like Ansuaru. I didn't even know who they were at first. And then when I listened to them talk, I said, oh, they not that. They just look like them because they all had the white on. You got to remember, we young and we're not seeing the detail yet. We just seeing they got on all white, and it's kind of similar to these guys, what they wearing. So we start going to their meetings to see what they was talking about. And they had a profound understanding of the Bible. So that was cool. We was like, let's go to their Bible class. And since they were using the 1 to 10 in the actual facts, solar fact, and the 1 to 36, they was actually using that. That's what I know for a fact. That's what they were using. They didn't use the 1 to 14 and the 1 to 40, but they sure knew about the wisdom builder destroy degree and the 1 to 40. That's my word is bond. They used to speak on that. So I said, all right, so they must be some kind of group or somebody went in the temple and got that much of what the lessons was, and they came out and they teaching this. I even bought one of their Bibles because they had did a lot of work on it, like giving you the real history of each chapter, right? The real history of it. And then they also fixed all the pictures, right? They fixed all the pictures in there and made them right and exact. So that was cool, too. I thought that was... And later on, we learned that they was really based out of Miami. But in those days, we didn't know. We thought they was in New York. I was like, everybody's in New York. We're going to hit every temple that got some high science. That's how we ended up going to Gethsemane. Because Gethsemane, they was Christians, but they was Pentecostal. So, they're real conservative with the long dress and no makeup and all that other craziness. They don't do a lot of the colonizers stuff. They don't, So anyway, long story short, they had Bible classes. So we was going there, and I remember Ken Du was having Bible classes too. And he would also teach you the Shiite side of, like Ahmed. We went to see Ahmed too. Ahmed was teaching us the Shiite side of the Orthodox side. He was teaching us how to. I remember me and Undy used to laugh because he had mad books, but pretty much they was all the same book, just different authors or different understanding. But it was like they were all the same book. I was like, I like 100 books. Well, say he had like 500 books. I'm telling you, like 360 of them was the same book, but just different. If you can understand what I mean. It's almost like saying I can have a Quran by Yusuf Ali and I can have one by Maulana Muhammad Ali. He had stuff like that. But he was cool. He was a Vietnam veteran. He was cool. He was showing us science too. So we had him too. He was putting us on. Because once we quoted 120 and we already had that, we was thirsty. We was out there. Right? Because we was like, nobody gonna get. That's why we ended up studying Kabbalistics, Kabbalah. That's how we ended up seeing C.C. Zane. Right? So, like I said, what's his name? Yahweh ben Yahweh was in Florida, and Imam Isa went to Georgia, built him a giant pyramid. I mean, not like the ones in Egypt, but it was made out of wood or plaster, whatever. He built it with the regular materials you got here nowadays. And then he got into some legal problems, and y'all could do the research on that. Everybody know what happened with that. He was just asking, like, what about them? So that's what I know about them, right? I know that much. That's what I learned about that. And then, like the Ches Nation, under the Melchizedek, that's what my father and them was dealing with. They was dealing with that. That's why when I met Igard, I already knew not to eat pork. Like, that wasn't in my house. Like, it's the 60s and shit, They the adults of the 60s. In the 60s, a lot of Asiatics was conscious. Like, they Contel Pro is what wiped them out. Especially the men. It wiped them out with the war and Contel Pro and all that. And then now you go to the 80s. The 80s children got hit because the crack era. The 70s children got the rest of their political people that went to college that was children in the 60s. And then they was in college in the 70s. Like, they was teenagers and kind of almost adults in the 60s. But they was still with their parents. Like, they was like that. The old teenagers. Then they ended up going to college and becoming Huey P. Newton and all that. Right? Eldridge Cleaver and all them. They became all of them. Right? Because Martin and them were young when Contel Pro murdered them. Right? Martin was young. Malcolm was young. All of them was young cats. Dropping high science and everything. And so we took a big hit right there. Like, that all ties in when you looking at what happened. Right? What took place. So Contel Pro, they went throughout the... people be thinking the 50 states. No. Think Alaska to Chile and then go to the next level and go from Tropic of Capricorn to the Tropic of Cancer. And all the Asiatic leaders, if they didn't jail them, they killed them. Or did something, put them in exile. They was just going at them because they didn't want to give up their rulership. Like they didn't want to put themselves out of the position they feel that they should be in. We took it and we're going to keep it. That's pretty much what he said. I'm just using his words, all right? So I'm running out of time, and that's pretty much how I see that. I can't think of anything else that you might need that's based on that, outside of the normal see on what's going on Earth. Like if we go into current events, we would say Trump is your president, right? When I say your, I speak loosely on your, meaning that's the president of the United States of America. And he said, well, what about the president? I mean, he is what he is. He's the president. I mean, what you could say about he's the president, like from Alaska to Chile is one thing, but the 50 states, from George Washington to him, they're all corporate presidents. They presidents of a corporation. And they running it the way they run it. It is what it is. We know the history on America, so you could fill in the blanks yourself on that. But I'm just saying, they had like assassinations inside of that too, right? Like the major one everybody knows is John F. Kennedy and Abraham Lincoln. But Abraham Lincoln was so far back that we can't really relate to it the same way we can John F. Kennedy. And we know both of them it wasn't one person or one group that was going at them. Because when you start talking Federal Reserve notes, you start talking gold and silver, commodities like cotton and wool, right? Leather. And then you start talking agriculture, and then it goes into greenbacks. And see, all of that is what took place. If you want to understand that a little better, get War Powers Act by Dr. Gene Schroeder. From there, he'll lead you to where else you need to go. But that'll give you a good understanding on that side. And then, right, because I was saying the math would have been math would have been power. I would have been just saying, I would have been like power, cipher, wisdom, equality. Woo, you know what I'm saying? I would have went into that, but 9 reasons why Allah is God, or whatever the case may be. Quote that degree. That's where I would go with it. I would be making moves like that. Then you might go into the area square miles of the planet Earth, and I would go into the 1 to 36 and be all like, he does not know that he is my uncle, and you could go there with it, right? And then, you could take it to the next go with Jerusalem. And once you go into Jerusalem, you're going to have to see the Ottoman Empire. And once you go from the Ottoman Empire, then work your way back. So you want to use a foundation. Go like 1453. Byzantine Empire. Go there. 1453. Once you go there, then work your way back to 1947. But you could also go to 1914. Go there too. Then you're going to hit 1947. And then you'll understand the science behind Saladin. And it was freedom, justice, and equality. Right? Jerusalem is in Palestine in Asia Minor. See, they called it Palestine. You'll understand that part. See, it's going in. That's why I said 120 is like a complete science. You just got to look at each degree and then go into the books and the lessons and everything that apply to those degrees, because he made it so that it was small and it would be quotable. But the amount of information that's just in that, just looking at that 1 degree, is off the chain, right? Yeah, especially with what's going on in the world right now. Then the next hit, you get to do it again. You get to go back again to the total square mileage. So you start dealing with, like I said, the tropical Capricorn, the tropical Cancer, and the equator. So they went throughout that area and wiped out all the Lamb's Wool leaders they could find. That's what they did. So now here we go forward. And now Africa's stepping their game plan up. America's stepping their game plan up. Everybody's stepping their game plan up as far as the people with lamb's wool. They just don't understand they're all the same exact people. You know, they'll be thinking they're all different, but they're not. They all got lamb's wool, so they're all the same. We're just very diverse, and we already circumnavigated the whole planet 50,000 years before the European was even like a nation of Europeans. 50,000 years before he was all in like European, being European. Before he was like he wasn't here. That's when word is born. You could find a beginning to him easy. You start looking, you be going, oh, dude. It don't take long, and then we don't know where you at. Like, you not here. See what I'm saying? That's an actual fact. Do any kind of anthropology. Don't let them teach it to you. Go to the museum and look for yourself, and then do your own little research, and you'll see. Like, use people like Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark. Damn, use them. That'll lead you. And J.A. Rogers, that'll lead you to the right path. George G.M. Jones and all that. Read them. Stolen Legacies and all those kind of books. Get that from Timbuktu and like that. So like I was saying, so in the modern day world, you say the people with lamb's wool who are in control of land are taking control of their resources. We in the wilderness of North America as lambs wool, we are the resource. Ourself is the resource. We have to take control of ourself, right? Because we don't spend our money the right way. Now that everybody knows and all of the stuff that they was calling Gucci and George Foreman and Michael Jordan and all this Apple and everybody, all that shit, they outsourced the labor to China and the Asian countries. Like they outsourced the black woman getting hair, like, you know, when she wants to buy weaves and all that. They outsourced that to India. So you helping India make money when you want to have your hair looking like a colonizer's hair. Because that's what you doing. You could say you not doing it. Well, if we go black, brown, red, yellow, white, who got lamb's wool? The thumb, right? Black. Everybody else got some form of not lamb's wool, but maybe straight and straight, right? Like that. And you're trying to make yours look like that. And you're not trying to do that? Yes, you are. The thing you should got to admit it to yourself that you're doing that first. That you are trying to make it look like the other four. You're trying to make your hair look like theirs instead of making that. You're the trendsetter, so it don't take long for you to make them want to have their hair like you. So that's that hit. But it's coming in its own time. It's nothing you can really do individually because the unconscious are the ones that is doing that mostly. And then they make y'all do it because they put you under pressure and then y'all want to do it. So I understand what's going on. I'm just saying. Knowledge itself tells you not to do that. Like just from an economic perspective, not without nothing else. If you use 120 and you do what 120 says do, you automatically boycott the devil. Like, who is that mystery God? God's cipher is who is that mystery God. But it could also be knowledge added onto a cipher. Who is that mystery God? See how I can make you get there? Like, you could get there. You just got to know how to get there. Like, tell us what did he promise his nation he would do. Because build a destroy and understanding will make you get there. Right? But also, end will make you get there. End is going to be wisdom, understanding. So that'll make you go there. But build to destroy understanding, you could get there quicker because that's wisdom, myself, divine, cipher, master. I'll get you right there. You'll be going there fast. Right? God will, because that's what power is going to make you think of what is the meaning of civilization if you're looking at 120, because that's going to be God, even though that is also knowledge God. But that's knowledge God in a free cipher. That ain't knowledge God in 120. Not from how we got it, 1 to 10, 1 to 10, 1 to 36, 1 to 14, 1 to 40, actual facts, solar facts. Some people got 1 to 10, 1 to 14, 1 to 36, 1 to 40. Like that. They got theirs that way. But we got ours this way. Right, that's how we got it. So if we was going power, we would go God, and then we would go, what is the meaning of civilization? One having knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, refinement, is not a savage in the pursuit of happiness. I noticed there's a comma. It says knowledge, comma. That's proper English, right? One having knowledge, and then there's a pause, because it's a comma, but it's not the same pause you would have if you was using a period. And you got, it's more like a stop sign instead of a red light. So you have one knowledge, comma, wisdom, comma, understanding, comma, culture, comma, refinement, and it's not a savage. That you wouldn't have a comma back of refinement because the next word is A-N-D. That's a connecting word. Connecting and is not. And is not. See, and that's the connection. Is not a savage in the pursuit of happiness. So look at happiness is right there. Knowledge and no wisdom. See how you see it? You see the culture right there. See it even show. See, look, knowledge. Then you see the next one is wisdom. The next one is understanding. The next one is culture. Well, refinement is part of power. Because it sure ain't part of a culture. It's refinement. Power refinement is what the lessons say. So if it was going that way, I would say, okay, well, there's refinement right there. It's in there. You don't see power, but I got there by power because God. The two gods together is power. Believe that. And then if you knowledge in God, then that's what is the meaning of civilized. So if you knowledge in God, you also could be dealing with the queen. But knowledge is man and God is man. So that could be two gods again. Knowledge is the God. He's standing there doing the knowledge. And then the God is right there. So they come in twos like that. They come in twos like master, student. Who's master I God or like that? It'd be like that. It'd be like, who's your enlightener? Who taught you this? So that's how come it be in twos, right? It'd be the teacher and the student. That's how it be. It comes that way. Like that's how it goes. So that's how I would say that. So there's the power. It'll take you there, okay? Then you might go all the way to hills and mountains, and Jupiter, and then after that, you good now. You did today's mathematics, unless you was gonna go in the alphabets and you was gonna go into equality, which would take you into Earth, because equality gonna give you knowledge cipher, and that's gonna take you right to the Earth. That's like one of the only degrees that goes right inside of it, like right away. Like none of the other lessons make you go to the 1 to 10. Because if I go knowledge, cipher, equality not only makes you go to the knowledge, cipher, and it's the Earth is 93 million miles away from the sun, right? But it also makes you see the 1 to 10. See, the 1 to 10. It has up the chain, right? Just like if you go to 96. So if you go to King Not Cipher Wisdom, Lord Equality, Divine God Equality. That's knowledge, right? And so knowledge is going to born equality, and then we're going to go to the born equality surah and go on. And that's air particles in a cloud of blood attach itself to the uterus wall, but that's not the significant part. The significant part is we all know that knowledge is one, and that knowledge itself, the word, in English word one, makes you see 96. And then we know when we go to the 96th surah of the Quran, that's the first surah that Muhammad received from the angel Gabriel. So you see how the correlation keeps coming back. That math is no joke. Anyway, I'm out of time. It's 39. I should have been done at 30. But divine understanding, born of Allah. I'm just, that's where it leads to. That's why I kept saying it leads you into that, right? Peace.